Hello, hello.
Yeah, hi, it's Albert.
Albert, how you doing, brother?
I'm pretty good. It's recording right now, so you're aware.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
Okay, perfect.
How are you feeling today?
Well, I'm fine. I'm good. And you?
Good, good.
Okay, well, I start with the intro. I'm Albert, the remote viewer. My strong suit really is future seeing predictions. I had a whole list of the next terrorist events, sent it out to the authorities, then it just gets squandered, and nothing happens after that. And then I'd turn it over to you. Just give a short elevator pitch, related to psychic ability.
Sure. I'm Buddy Bolton, Alien Protocols. I've got the Alien Protocols YouTube channel, and I've always had an intuitive ability. Even my mother would tell me that, dreams are precognitive and to trust your gut instincts. And so I've always had this, ability to do different aspects of psi. And, of course, psi ranges from healing to psychokinesis to gathering non-local data. And one of the most difficult things is predictions. So you work in a very difficult field. It's a very difficult for many reasons, but just the task itself is very difficult.
Yeah, well, I can tell you about it. Well, I guess we can jump right into it. One of the things you viewed was the SHERMAN homicide, and the results are your overall feeling. You feel that he is a City of Toronto employee, that he has an addiction to Percocet and OxyContins, that may well be the motive, that he's angry at the pharmaceutical industry. He's an acquaintance of the wife, Honey Sherman, and he's a single parent, one son, 10 or 12 years old, and the name Greg or Gordon or Gregory or something to that effect comes up. So it's sort of you're right on the verge of breaking the case. I sent this information to the detective in charge, Brandon Price, by email. I also left him a voice message. He doesn't reply to anything, but I'm sure he got the message. Was there anything else you wanted to add about viewing the SHERMAN homicide?
Not really. I think you summed it up well. It's really difficult to get. First, it's difficult to do these kind of viewings because oftentimes you get sensations. You feel the feelings of the victim. I've worked with quite a few missing children cases and other types of cases dealing with real people, and you can experience what they experience, but not as bad as them, of course. But you can have these, it's a very, it can be very emotional, and so that was one of those that had deep emotion tied to it, and I think you described it well. And people don't look. The average society, average person in society doesn't believe in ESP. They don't believe. They haven't done their research to see the indisputable studies that have been done. So, it's not flawless. It's not perfect. And I certainly make mistakes. But an important thing to realize about these abilities is you can only really judge a practitioner by their quality of their verifiable targets. And if you try to do unverifiable targets, you can only judge their unverifiable targets at least by how they do with verifiable targets.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think you're talking about transference. I felt that too, where you're an empath. You can pick up the feelings of other people, and it causes some an effect, an emotional effect. That's for sure.
Exactly.
For my part, I was able to foresee the SHERMAN homicide at a 519 community meeting, and I reported it to CBC reporter Alison Chiasson, a very honest person. She's one of my witnesses. She was crossed by the review into MacArthur. As I understand, I heard from other people working at the CBC, she was crossed by Brandon Price about the SHERMAN case, and she told her producer, but she refused to talk with police. And I phoned it into 911 myself after that. Somehow, for whatever reason, the police just do nothing. I don't know what they do at their end, but then it's reported in the paper that the real estate agent found the 2 bodies. And another reporter who's in Toronto, he's an ace reporter, Kevin Donovan at the Toronto Star. He is one of the reporters working on this case as well. I've sent him information as well, but it just, for whatever reason, it always ends up getting squandered. The other reporter, who's one of my witnesses, probably the one who's the mostly involved with my stuff, is Robin Doolittle at the Globe and Mail, and she was also crossed by the Review, and gave the same account as mine, and then the Review just censors their final report, excludes all my information, and won't say anything about it, and that's it's just stuck there where it gets in this case it got suppressed, and it's a cover-up. But the other stuff you were talking about earlier, where the entire human species is psychic. So we're talking about the next step in human evolution. So everyone walking around is psychic, but it's kept dormant. Like for my experience, if you make your midbrain still, make the chattering monkey stop, then you click your amygdala forward, and it's a frontal lobe activity. And then there's all the stuff you were talking about. You can levitate, future see, teleport, manifest gold, heal the sick, and so on. But for whatever reason, people are afraid of it, and they don't want to put in the work. And the next step in human evolution would be telepathy.
Absolutely, and people make fun of it. And that's why people don't want to risk their jobs reporting on it. They don't want to talk about their experiences. And it's the same thing with UFOs. These all lump into phenomena. And, phenomena is based on history. Historically, phenomena has been emerging science. So people should be daring and have discussions and experiments and work on this stuff. Like your body, if you want to be healthier and stronger or more flexible or a wide variety of things, you have to work at it. You have to exercise. And the same is true with these skills. And people, like to make fun of people who believe in UFOs or believe in ESP, and, they just don't understand. They have a ignorance wall. And some of them don't want to because of religious reasons.
Yeah, well, I thought we're on the spiritual side. Religion would be on our side, because if you look at the Bible, that's what Christ is trying to do. Is he's telling people, you have psychic ability, you should use it. But yeah, one of the obstacles is definitely the skeptics, and the police are hardcore skeptics. So there, I'm talking about the homicide detective Brandon Price. He knows exactly I'm right. They know I broke the MacArthur case. They would still be driving around in circles looking for him if I didn't report it like a dozen times. They never give me any of the credit. And then I offered to Detective Price, let's go to the location. I can probably get a psychometry reading. Let's do a ride around, a drive-by. It doesn't reply to anything. Won't reply to it. And they bulldozed down the house, and it's just an empty lot now. So whatever evidence would have been there, it's been, buried under. But in any case...
imagine how many of the other police officers or people in the city council or whatever would make fun of a police officer who believes in psychic abilities, and that's just because our society is kind of screwed up that way. This is Western society likes to think that we know everything, and physics knows we only know 5% of what the universe is.
Yeah, well, at the next level above police, the courts don't want anything to do with it at all. Like I've never been called as a witness in a court case, and that's one of the reasons why the police don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole, because the court doesn't want to hear anything about it. You're not going to get any lawyer who will argue psychic ability in court. So
no, absolutely.
So that's it's a societal change thing that has to happen.
It really does, and I think it's starting to change. Now that UFOs are being admitted. That they exist, all these other things people are starting to get a little bit more of an open mind. And it's the UFO subject and psi abilities is very intertwined, even though they seem like totally different. And, you can look at the UFO stuff and say, well, I'm just going to study UFOs because at least I can mention this case or that case. I don't want to bring up ESP because that just makes it really, complicated and really, convoluted. But some of the best aerospace engineers mentioned the relationship between ESP and UFOs. Ben Rich, who's the legendary head of Skunk Works, he talked about, someone asked him after some speaking engagement, asked him, what is the secret of UFOs? And he said something to the effect of, what do you know about ESP?
Yeah,
I think
that's how you can tell it's a real abduction. If the abductee comes back and they have psychic ability, they have telepathy, they have enhanced psychic ability, then there's a good chance they were abducted.
And you know what? Even a lot of the scientists, and Gary Nolan talked about after some UFO events, these people had their brain scans and they found that their caudate putamen, which is a very low control part of the brain, has all these extra bundles of nerves and connections that is incredibly unusual. And, to me, I think this stuff, and why the aerospace engineers and others are interested in ESP is because it's not woo-woo, it's physics. And somehow there is another field. 200 years ago, we discovered the electromagnetic field. There was a bunch of phenomena, and people thought it was satanic or this or that and the other, until this guy Volta unified all the phenomena and let us understand that we were living in a field, an electromagnetic field. And now we're at the same point again. 200 years later, there's another field we're just discovering now. And I think that the field is connected to UFOs for a couple of different reasons. One, if it's true that this field is there, then it would almost mandate that a more advanced civilization would know about it and use it. And even in the ATIP conclusion documents that came out, there's a famous slide from the Chris Mellon congressional briefing, and it was leaked. This is the more confidential briefing package. And slide 9 talks about all these powers that are psi powers, powers of consciousness. And the most researched, or the best well-known and respected UFO researchers, almost always connect consciousness to the UFO topic. So we're onto something. It's not woo-woo.
Well, that's definitely one of the hot topics, whether there's an ether, because in remote viewing, things are instantaneous. You can see the other side of the universe. Your spirit can transport to there. You can higher powers. Another aspect, like I jotted down some point notes here, transference, but it's a different definition of it. Like I did 4 years at Ryerson, RTA class of 2015, a media production program. My original plan was to get my own podcast going or produce a documentary about, remote viewing stuff. But this part of transference, there's 5 Jane Does in the class. So the woman sitting beside me spontaneously combust psychic ability. Like the third eye in her forehead almost pops out of her head. She can future see the incel attack just like, without me telling her. She sees the same thing that I am able to see. MacArthur, incel Danforth MacArthur, tells the same reporter I told. But then there's 5 different Jane Does. Jane Doe number 2 has superhuman strength. She can lift up a car. Crossed by Robin Doolittle, the Globe and Mail reporter, still has superhuman strength, can still pick up a car. Father came to the school and asked, what did you do to my daughter? And then the daughter asked for this, though. I didn't do anything unethical. And the daughter, I'm not in any trouble, because the daughter said, no, she's fine. I said, all right, I'll put her back to normal, the way she was. And then the daughter was, no, strong is better than weak. She asked for it, she likes it, she wants it better. And then the father was like, oh, all right, it's fine then. Jane Doe number 3 ran off with a sack of manifested gold coins, 1 ounce Canadian maple leafs, 99% pure gold. Says since then it's been stolen from her by her boyfriend. She went and showed it to him, and he stole all of it from her, and she doesn't have it anymore. She got to cash in a little bit of it anyway, but it never gave me any of the money. Just took off with it. And this is the one that I want the public confession out of. The UAP abduction. You were talking about the other planet, and I was the mediator in between. English professor. Went right through the ceiling of the school, right through the roof of the school, lived on the other civilization, a level above human, had her own flying car, runs on 0-point energy, she's now back at Ryerson, had telepathy when she came back. She's now shut it off. She really learned a lot, is what she tells me. Doolittle comes to Ryerson, gets a confession out of her. Then the reporter says, well, reporters can't just do whatever they want. She has to pass the story through a lawyer. The lawyer quashed it down. And this went all the way up through the ranks. David Walmsley, editor of the Globe and Mail, he has all the information, has a confession out of the abductee, knows what the name of the other planet is, knows about 0-point energy. They won't publish it. They suppressed it. The reviewer in MacArthur has the same information. They suppress it. They won't say anything. A cover-up, a whitewash. The abductee herself has clammed up and doesn't want to say anything. She doesn't want to talk about it now anymore. But the point I was trying to get on, have you ever noticed this happened? Like Jane Doe number 1, just from being in the same room from me, she spontaneously becomes psychic. And there is some sort of transference that's, invisible.
Yes, there's people at a certain level where all sorts of phenomena happens around them. And I've had people say a wide variety of things by working with them and even doing stuff with them non-locally. And it happens, and it's usually with high-end practitioners. And I'm not completely sure if it's the practitioner or if the person they're communicating with activates their own because of their belief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have to be open to it. That's one thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and if they're super open and they believe it, then that if they believe that just by being near somebody that they could get different abilities or phenomena, then their belief can make them subconsciously do different things and think it's something else.
And that's the best way for the societal change is from personal experience. That's a priori evidence. This girl now is pro-psychic. And it's a one-way road. She will be now always pro-psychic. She never goes back to being a skeptic. So it's like the next step forward in human evolution.
I've had people challenge me from Twitter, maybe like 4 or 5 people, and there's testimonials on my channel from them. And, just incredible results. And, I can't explain it for sure what the mechanism is or how it works, but there's no doubt it works. Mm-hmm. And, when you're able to change a skeptic's opinion by experiencing it, just exactly what you said, that's the only way to really understand. Once you experience it, then you're like, oh my goodness, this is not chance, this is something special. And, we've been suppressed since children that, magic doesn't exist, and, it's magic. But in essence, it kind of is magic, but it's one of our senses. Evolutionary, I think we developed it to survive.
It's definitely there in potential, and most people are just keeping it dormant for, their own reasons. Society will outcast them or the problems with it. From the historic literature, though, I suppose, Gurdjieff in The Fourth Way, he was able to recover addicts. What I know about it is he would, brew tea, then the addict would drink it, and he had 100% recovery rate. Whatever the addiction was, he's able to cure them. Heroin, cocaine, crack, whatever, anything, it didn't matter. He just had to make the right tea for it. And then when on Gurdjieff's deathbed, he says, 40 students can't replace him, and he doesn't pass on the technique of how to do this. Western material medica just rejects it. On the human plane, what we have is a little bit of his literature. I put down karma in different realms. But you also try to use psi for healing, and you took a vow of poverty. Is there anything more you want to say about that? I guess you did for spiritual reasons, the vows.
Absolutely. I first kind of went onto the streets to live in my truck with $60,000 savings, like 5 years ago. And I spent the money very quickly, and I changed my life. I decided I didn't want to be involved in entertainment and comedy anymore because it's very selfish, self-oriented, me. And, I wanted to let the truth out about this stuff. And I decided to go 100% in and to trust in God. and that I would be provided for, like it says in the Bible. You know, a sparrow will be provided for. Whatever your religion is, or your feeling about a greater, higher power or creator. And so I've been following the path, and the Buddhists call it the Eightfold Path, or the path of virtue. And Nagarjuna and many others spoke over 2,000 years ago, spoke about as you walk the path of virtue, you will acquire these abilities. The ability to see distant places, the ability to affect matter, essentially, the ability to diagnose and heal illnesses, and a wide list of these things that they mentioned over 2,000 years ago. And I think it's in the Patanjali. And so these abilities have been known about. And I can't claim credit when a healing happens. I've been involved with, healings, and, I can't claim credit because whether it's God or the patient believing or the other people that are also praying, but it's wonderful. All of this stuff is so wonderful, and it's such a blessing, and I'm so sad people's life experience, which is so precious, they don't get to see how dynamic life really is.
Right. Well, I'm with you on the same page with a lot of what you said. The biblical perspective is the correct one. The Bible's correct. I know that for certain. It reverts to reincarnation back on Earth. The question they will ask you is, who did you help? And that will determine your karma and where you're forced to reincarnate to. And you end up meeting people from your past lives. Yeah, you meet the same people and have to work out karmic issues with them. But the Catholic Church left out reincarnation. They got that wrong, but it's in the Bible. And then it will probably sound funny about this. Maybe you're not supposed to talk about it and stuff. But yeah, Jesus is God. When you the time in between lives, he's at the edge of the universe. You get about 10 minutes to talk with him, and then you end up reincarnating somewhere. But the one question they will ask for sure is, who did you help? What good did you do? And then one of the things Ingo Swann was looking for was the out to reincarnation. And this is a long going on thing in the literature, the Buddhist monks, the Book of the Dead, the Tao, whatever. They wanted to break the cycle of reincarnation. And the out that Swann found is that there's a level above human, this other planet what we're talking about, which at least will be better than here. You will at least have a permanent residence. They give everyone a flying car, runs on 0-point energy. No cop stops you and pulls you over to ask you if you have a pink piece of paper. Where are you going? You want to go for a swim in the ocean, you go take a swim in the ocean. No security guard comes and kicks you and tells you can't sleep on the beach. They were all vegetarian. Everyone is vegan. They don't eat animals.
So logical, yeah.
Yeah, and then. I just forgot what I was going to say. Oh yeah, they had telepathy. Everyone had telepathy. You could delete Skype off your phone. Everyone had telepathy. Like I'm saying, this woman from Ryerson who went there and came back, she had telepathy when she first came back. Then she shut it off because she was, out of fear. She was scared of what people would think.
Another reason why I think so many modern people, especially in Western culture, don't understand or believe in this stuff or experience it is because our society, especially with social media and things like that, in our capitalist society in general, it's very much about me. Mm-hmm. And these abilities and the whole heart of the esoteric is not about me. It's about selflessness. Remote viewing is about selflessness. It's not about me. It's about you and resonating with other places and people, resonating with others, connecting, like two tuning forks.
Right. Well, you realize what's in the Bible. We're all one. You did it to the least of these. You did it to me. The words of Christ are always the best thing to go back to.
Absolutely. I'm a Christian too, and I find that the people that I respect the most, just on a personal level, just happen to be Christians. It's not something I plan or anything, but it just always ends up that way. And we're really lucky, Albert. We're blessed. We don't need God. It's God's plan. What happens here on Earth, and we can try to warn about future events. We can try to heal, and we can do all the different esoteric abilities, and ultimately we only have our responsibility to do our side, and others have responsibility too. So you just do what you do, and you let others be them. You can be disappointed or sad that they don't believe in this or that or the other. Most practitioners' families don't believe in this stuff. So a lot of people get down, and you shouldn't get down. You should keep your spirits high and realize how blessed we are to be smart enough and clever enough and wise enough to explore this very edge of human understanding and to have the reward of these vistas, these abilities that the Patanjali said were vistas. Don't get distracted from the path of virtue by these abilities. And that was a really important point, because they'll take you off the path of virtue. If you get too egocentric about your abilities will get worse, and you're off the path of virtue.
Yeah, exactly. I concur. The same thing. At least we know it's real, and that's ahead. It's ahead of everyone else. And there's also the same thing where you said, like, this is the course I'm on. Nothing else is more important. This is the most important thing. Like, I know I've taken 9 to 5 jobs. I would just be depressed. I wouldn't last more than a year, and I had to leave, and I have to go back to, well, this is more important. I got to do something with remote viewing. And
yes.
People have done it the same. Ingo Swann was the same thing. When he was 34,
yes.
he dropped everything he was doing, and he said, well, I'm going to make a go of it and just try to do it. And then, 20 years later, they're having conferences about what he was able to achieve.
Yes. And he's someone that I revere as well, too, big time. And, we're blessed. We're blessed. And the people who really understand this stuff are wonderful people, because they're like us.
Well,
they have the same qualities and stuff.
Well, they understand there's some law of karma, and that whatever bad you do, it's going to come back to you. Maybe not threefold, but I'm certain I can recall the question they will ask you is, who did you help? What good did you do? And that will determine how you reincarnate and where you end up and stuff. But
yeah, I believe it.
But and then, like I'm saying, there's like I went to the Vipassana Center and things like that, and as you're saying, you can explore things with your mind, and then there's definitely other different realms. Like we're on the human plane, like the 3D reality. But when you read the literature, there's different realms. You could communicate with other entities. There is some kind of law of karma, which the Bible could have explained better. Things like destiny are in there. Like things are set in stone. Like from the past life, you're going to meet people that you have karmic issues with. That's set in stone that you're going to end up meeting them somehow, somewhere. So there's some things like destiny's not in the Bible, but destiny's a thing. So
it's funny, too, because when you're a child, you have these feelings like, oh, gosh, I know this person, or this feels funny. I've been here before.
Deja vu, yeah.
Yeah, and then as you get older, you really kind of put the pieces together and get to the place where you and I are with this stuff. So it's so cool. It's so cool, and it's like you said before. You have to experience it yourself. It's really easy to learn some of these esoteric abilities. It's really easy to train, and you can improve yourself and your abilities, and you will see more and more extraordinary things.
Right.
And
well, one step is the meditation, and then the still small voice. And there's an internal board. Like for me, it's right 2 inches under my belly button, and then like an internal board will open up, and then you can hear a still small voice. And if you whatever you want to call that, your higher self, or anyway, or there's stuff they've put out in remote viewing as well. Your unconscious is your best friend. It's sort of it's a frontal lobe activity, like I said earlier. If you stop the chattering monkey, click your amygdala forward, and then it will be a frontal lobe activity, and you're in that zone. Once you're in that zone, then you can go to town.
It's so cool. It's so weird, too, that, and all practitioners talk about this, is that it's that gestalt. It's that first thing, that first little voice that comes from the nothingness. When you clear your mind, and that's why meditation is so great. Especially for me, I like to do the nothingness meditation, still and silence everything. And, some people do the red dot on a black background. That's fine to a certain point, but then you can get rid of the red dot, and then you can get rid of the black background, and then try to experience as best you can nothingness. And the more you exercise that, the more the signal, this gestalt that leaps to your mind, the more it's clearer. And I think that's part of the, reason why the, good viewers and the reliable ones with verifiable targets are that good, is because they have that distinction between the signal versus noise. They're able to get silent, still the mind. This is a quote I love to say, and I think it was Nagarjuna: if you still your mind like the surface of a lake, you can reflect the universe.
Yeah, and when you're in that zone, it's laser-like focus. Like for me, the information came right through, name, date, and place, and I could just rattle off the whole whole list. The next 10 things that will happen in the future.
Yeah, I think you did the Bataclan as well too, didn't you?
Right. Yes. I sent out 2 mass emails, and I did this during my time at Ryerson when I was an undergrad from 2011 to 2015. One mass email that goes out says Bataclan Theater in the header, has all 3 events in France, Pulse nightclub, Incel Danforth, MacArthur, and Toronto. Toronto police have it, the FBI, Ryerson. I sent. And then the information just gets squandered, and nothing happens.
And you know what? Sometimes God has a purpose, or things are supposed to happen. And if sometimes too you can't heal somebody because God has a lesson in it. And we can only do our part as best we can, but we can't be God. And so I kind of let go of those things.
You can't be attached to the outcome, because then I'm called from the review, because someone from Ryerson, the review opened up to do an investigation into police negligence about the MacArthur case, and then the lawyer called me and said, look, we have your email here, come in and give a statement. So at the beginning they're very cooperative, they're very friendly. They proved everything I'm saying. They crossed my witnesses. They gave the same account as mine. They have the France email. They crossed Ryerson, police, and reporters. All of them were honest and gave the same account as mine. And then they censor their final report and exclude all my information. And during my statement, then I came up with a new list of information, the coronavirus set of information, which is the virus, Kobe Bryant, Ukraine Jet 752. They have an audio recording of this, and then it's censored. Nothing's prevented. And that's another thing for me. It's either, it seems to be like a group activity, or maybe if an attractive woman is there, the sexual energy is converted into kundalini, and then it goes up to your crown chakra, or being celibate could help. There's different techniques. But I find in remote viewing, the 5th stage, you can skip the first 4 stages, just go to that last stage, the feedback analysis, and when you talk it out with someone, then the information comes through. That's usually how I got most of my information. Is the reporter was there, and she came up with the France information when she was there, and she wrote it down in her notebook. But it was like the stage 5 in remote viewing, the analysis, where you talk it out and talk out the feedback of what you drew in the first 4 stages, the gestalt, your overall feelings, your impressions, your sketches, the words you wrote down. The analytic overlay gets rejected and stuff. Then I had a whole bunch of hits. Then the problem is what to do about it. Like we said, the police are skeptics. They just dismiss it. Reporter said the lawyer quashed it down on her. And then but that was it. The information's correct, but it gets squandered. But,
and it's mostly, I believe, because society is so ignorant to these abilities and the reality of them. And they don't want to be laughed at by their coworkers and other people. So rarely, even in movies and even in documentaries, there's so few about these abilities. And the best one, I think, is, of course, Lance Mungia's Third Eye Spies, which shows how the CIA and the government used remote viewing for over 20 years. And back to another point you were saying also, Ingo Swann helped to invent the remote viewing process. And it's designed ultimately, in a way, to teach people how to tap into their abilities. But Ingo didn't do the 7-page process. He could just, boom, do it. And, Pat Price and Joe McMoneagle and all these people just, boom, they can just do it once you get your skills up. And that's why I believe, like you say, just go to page 5. But that's for the well-versed practitioner.
Yeah, and part of it is just being still, and then you feel it, like your frontal lobes, you feel the signal line right on your head, and you're in an altered state, and the information starts coming through, and then that's it. Usually they go for name, date, and place because that's the important information, and then You know, there it is. Ideally, like one of the goals in my life is at least to try to get a confession on the UAP abduction, because, like I said, I can future see in the future there's flying cars. So somehow this will break. I want to end this on good news on a positive note. So in the future, for certain, I have no doubt at all, 0-point energy will break, because I saw flying cars in the future, and they're running on 0-point energy. So somehow this will break. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it will. And the other thing, what you said earlier, is we have to have faith in God. Jesus is God. Ultimately, he is the creator of the universe. He knows I exist. I do believe he does protect me. Whenever, you know, I was in any kind of danger, I wasn't harmed, and I felt there was a divine intervention. And that's the other point, you know, just faith in God.
That's it, brother. And we've been blessed with these gifts, and we should use them. God gave us these gifts to use for good, and we're so lucky to have this life, the gift of life, the gift of love, and, you know, it's exciting, and if I can do anything to help anyone, you know, I don't charge. You know, I accept donations, but I don't charge. I can't accept donations for healings or anything around healings. Yeah. But my email is alienprotocols@gmail.com. If anyone wants ESP tips or, you know, anything I can do to help, it would be my honor.
Okay, I will link it up, and I try to upload this to YouTube today. And yeah, I concur with pretty much with everything. And the same, like as I'm saying, you read the literature, and that gives you a good grounding. You know, G of the Fourth Way, he said the same thing. No set price. I do it for free, pro bono. It's just donation basis. Pay what you can. But he never turned away anyone. Anyone who was an addict, he would heal. And
Edgar Casey.
Yeah.
Same thing with Edgar Casey. Yeah.
You just pay what you can, a donation. If you don't want to pay anything, that's fine. But, you know, it works out, because then G said the people who were very wealthy, then they donated a large amount, and people who couldn't afford anything, but, you know, didn't. But in any case, I think we'll end it there. I don't want to go on too long, else people don't listen if it's too long.
Well, always a pleasure chatting, Albert. You're a really interesting guy, and, you know, bless you for getting the word out about this stuff, being daring enough to get the word out.
Well, that's my next goal. We're all going to die anyway, momentum mori. One of my next goals is to be more assertive with a new list of predictions, and this time, you know, I try to put it on social media. I've been holding back with that, but, you know, for different reasons. So Ryerson's a media production program, and they were too afraid to put it up, you know, the nature, you know, different things. So another aspect we didn't really go into, you know, it could be an inside job or false flag terrorism. Like they didn't want to broadcast that they know about France. None of the professors would stay after work to talk with the FBI. All of them were scared of the FBI. No, they don't want to talk with the FBI. No. So there's that aspect there. That's sort of an elephant in the room. That the Alex Jones stuff, or whatever you want to call it, you know, false flag terrorism, an inside job. It's, you know, you can't trust no one. But
in a way, that's true. But you can trust yourself. You can trust God. You can trust your good friends, and you know, we're blessed with, even like me, I've got Cosmo, my little dog, and I'm blessed with having that love, and so my life is very full and rich, and you know, I'm thankful for it all.
Yeah, well, that's all we could do is just try our best, and that's all anyone can do. But, okay, well, I'll talk with you later, and I guess we're end here.
It's a pleasure, Albert. It was nice chatting. We'll chat soon.
Okay, thanks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I'll see you.
Bless you.
Bye.
Bless you. God bless.
Yeah, God bless.